This slide shows the process flow of solid waste management in San Fernando. So, as you can see, um, households and other waste generators are expected to sort or segregate their waste at source. In this case, they are sorted into biodegradable, recyclables, and residuals. These sorted waste, they are collected by the barangay and brought to the community MRF or materials recovery facility. The biodegradables, of course, end up in the composting area. The recyclables are sold to local junk shops or waste markets, while the residuals, they are temporarily stored in the MRF, but they are later collected by the city government. So the residual waste, they are uh, sent to the transfer station for another round of sorting before the remaining material is brought to a landfill. In this case, they try to recover some low value plastics that can still be used or sold to recyclers. But basically, this is how waste management works in the city. So going back to the Philippine Local Government Code, in three sections, sections 284, 285, and 286, it covers how local government revenues or government revenues mainly through tax collection are in a way divided. So 40% of government revenues go to local government units, to cities, municipalities, and barangays. And then this 40%, it's further divided into the different local government units, such as provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays. And the share that each local government unit is receiving is based on the population and land area of these units. In the Philippines, we have this concept called IRA or Internal Revenue Allotment. This is the main source of uh, budgets of local governments, and the IRA is actually the tax collection that the national government gets, of course, from taxpayers, whether they're from individuals, from companies, etc. And the local governments primarily use this era or tax share to fund their public services, including waste management. Um, yeah, in this slide, just want to use to show some of the funding options that are available to local governments. In this case, for San Fernando, they're not just relying on the internal revenue allotment. They also get funding from other sources. So, in some of the examples listed in their latest solid waste management plan, they get additional resources from permits that they get from junk shop operators, from fines and penalties from violators, also for those businesses that are applying for environmental management fees or get paying environmental management fees. They're also selling some of the organic fertilizer that they produce from processing organic waste, turning them into compost. They also get some sales from the green funds. Back then, when they started doing the plastic bag regulation, they had this levy or charge for plastic bags just to, in a way, become the adjustment period for the plastic bag ban. So I think after a year, they've already stopped the distribution of bags altogether. Other funding options or support, which I think in some cities, even in Indonesia, we also see this. We usually get some support or grants from funding agencies, from private companies or NGOs, and maybe from other government agencies as well. And because of this improvements in terms of the waste management services, San Fernando, they were able to bring down the cost of waste management to just 92 pesos per person per year. That's equivalent to about 20,000 rupiah. Uh, the figure in 2015, before, it was 164 pesos, or around 48,000 rupiah. So yeah, and I mean, if they try to in a way improve the waste collection as well as reduction measures, then it's expected to go down further. And that's the discussion about the Philippine Local Government Code, and some examples coming from the city of San Fernando in Pampanga. And now we move on to the next section, which is the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, particularly its highlights or salient points. So we have 10 here that were listed by Mother Earth Foundation, and I'll go through them each one briefly. First, we have local leaders. They have the potential to become zero waste champions. Under Section 10 of the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, local government units, which are represented by mayors, governors, and village heads, they are primarily responsible for the implementation and enforcement of the law within the respective jurisdiction. And part of that mandate given to these local leaders is to design or come up with a 10-year solid waste management plan. As I've discussed earlier, the national government, through the National
Oke, baik Bapak Ibu semua, mungkin kita buka sesi tanya jawab terlebih dahulu ya. Bentar. Baik, sepertinya video saya yang di sini kurang baik, jadi saya izin untuk tidak menggunakan background ya. Jadi rusak ya, sebentar. Oke, Bapak Ibu, tadi kita sudah mendengarkan penjelasan oleh Miko ya. Beliau menceritakan banyak terkait dengan tata kelola pemerintahan dan juga bagaimana kemudian struktur pemerintahan terkait dengan pengelolaan sampah. Tadi ada beberapa catatan penting juga yang disampaikan oleh Miko, terutama dalam penganggaran biaya. Dari sisi penganggaran biaya, mereka lebih membebankan pada tax. Jadi ada pajak ya di sana. Mereka memungut pajak dari kegiatan-kegiatan kalau di Indonesia mungkin itu seperti PAD. Jadi pajak-pajak tidak hanya diambil dari masyarakat, tapi juga usaha. Kemudian dari kalau di Bali mungkin dari sektor pariwisata ya. Nah, hasil pajaknya inilah yang digunakan untuk membiayai pengelolaan sampah di Filipina. Nah, seperti itu kegiatannya. Bapak Ibu, jika ada pertanyaan yang mungkin kurang jelas, di sini kita sudah kedatangan Mr. Troy. Halo, Troy.
Hi.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry I cannot open my camera. Today something happened with my camera.
It's okay.
Okay, Roy, how are you? Good?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Ya. Jadi Bapak Ibu jika ada pertanyaan dari pemaparan di video sebelumnya bisa dituliskan di dalam kolom chat atau bisa ditanyakan langsung. Jika ada yang berkenan untuk berbahasa Inggris juga dipersilahkan. Jika tidak saya akan bantu untuk menerjemahkan. Oke, di sini sudah ada Bapak Dian Syahroni mau bertanya. Silakan Bapak Dian.
Ya, izin translate Mbak Buntik.
Jeh, Pak.
Oke, makasih. Selamat siang Bu Buntik dan semuanya. Nah, tadi terpilas saya dengar tentang menyewa kontraktor untuk pengelolaan sampah di sebuah desa. Jadi saya mau tanya sistem dan metodenya itu bagaimana, Mbak? Makasih.
Oh yeah. So okay, so Froy, Pak Dian asking for the contractor that is a contractor in Philippines to build the MRF or not, and how the system that they that you use to collaborate with the contractor.
Thank you. Salamat siang, everyone. Terima kasih YPBB, PPLH Bali, Ibu Chatur, and
I think
Guntik.
you're still muted, no?
Oh, one moment.
No, it's okay. It's fine. You
Sure.
can continue, Roy. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you again, everyone, for having me here. So on the question, there are two systems or setup, no? The ones in the case of Cota San Fernando, no, they don't have a contractor that does the collection and the building of the MRF, no. The collection is being done by the barangays from the household level, and then the city is has its own trucks, no, collect in highways or common areas. So that's the first system where the barangays and the city are the ones doing the collection. The second system is in the case of the capital, Manila or Quezon City, and this is true for big cities. No, the system is they have a contractor. For Manila, for Quezon City, the city is actually divided into 4 to 5 areas, and each area there is a contractor that is hired for a 1-year contract to provide the collection services. No, so that's the two systems. In terms of how they engage, for the first model with Cota San Fernando, it's a lot easier because they control everything. No, the environment agency of the city is the one handling the education component, is the one handling the collection, is the one handling the enforcement, no, and imposing fines. No? So everything is centralized in the environment agency, so it's a lot easier for the cities to manage. In the second system, they only outsource the waste collection with the contractors, but the education component and the enforcement component is still being handled by the city via the environment agency. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Froy. So Pak Dian, jadi Froy menjelaskan bahwa dari segi penegakan hukum, kemudian juga dari edukasi itu terpusat yang ada di pemerintah daerah ataupun kota. Tapi kalau untuk kontraktor begitu ya, memang ada memang istilahnya bekerja sama dengan kontraktor lepas ya. Seperti itu, Pak Dian Syahroni, apakah jelas?
Ya, Mbak, boleh tanggapi dikit, Mbak.
Ya, silakan Pak.
Jadi kalau untuk kontraktor, untuk output yang didapat daerah selain itu kota bersih, apakah ada berupa PAD atau bagaimana, Mbak?
Maksudnya dari kontraktornya atau mohon maaf Pak, saya
Dari kontraktornya itu kan ada sejenis kontrak kerja. Jadi yang diperoleh daerah dari kontraktor ini apakah hanya sebatas kotanya bersih atau ada income dari kontraktor itu tersebut berupa PAD.
Oke, baik. Siap. Ada lagi Pak Dian?
Nah, sementara cukup, Mbak. Makasih.
Okay, baik. So Freud, Pak Dian also add some questions. How about the MOUs between the government and also the contractors, and what the roles and the responsibility by contractor? Is there any tax that government take from the contractor also? Yes, I think that's all.
So in terms of the setup, typically this goes through a bidding process. The city puts up a contract, a bidding process for each of the contract, and different contractors apply. I think as a way to avoid monopoly, that's why they break up the different contracts, even for just one city. And in the case of Quezon City, where I am right now, there are 5 contractors for the 5 different areas, and all of that goes through a bidding process, where the city would put up the area coverage, the number of kilorahan, the number of population, and the requirements that they want. Do they want everyday collection? Do they want twice a week collection, or things like that? Once the needs are determined by the city, then the private companies are the ones putting up or proposing a cost, and then the government then chooses the contractor that offered the lowest cost, because it's a competitive bidding, and then that bidder gets that contract for that area. In terms of the responsibilities, if part of the contract says that you have to provide daily collection, then that is being monitored by the city. And the previous setup, which wasn't as effective, was to pay contractors for the volume of waste that they collect, which is quite problematic from our experience, because it doesn't have the incentive to reduce the waste. So what happens before in the old setup, where contractors are paid per volume, is that they would go out of their area just to collect more waste from other places so that they get paid more. So they've stopped that, and now the payment is based on a defined area, based on a population and the volume of waste that's projected to come from that area. But whether you get a big or a small volume of waste, you pay the same. And then the tipping fee when it reaches the landfill is different. But I'd like to just emphasize that from our experience, the best model has been the one that Cota San Fernando has been doing, where everything is being done by the city, and the environment agency was empowered to control the whole aspect of waste management, from collection, from education, and until enforcement.
Jadi Bapak Syaroni, tadi Mr. Freud menyampaikan bahwa di setiap jadi Quezon itu adalah Quezon City ya, kota. Jadi setiap barangays itu adalah desa. Jadi setiap desa itu ada sekitar 5 ya, tadi disebut ada 5 kontraktor, dan ini kontraktornya bersaing satu sama lain gitu. Jadi di sini ada kompetitif harga. Jadi harga yang kompetitif, semakin rendah yang ditawarkan itu yang akan diterima. Jadi ada bidding. Bidding itu semacam lelang. Nah, jadi ada lelang untuk pengerjaan pengelolaan sampah ini. Jadi di sini memang para kontraktor ini diatur penuh oleh Pemda, jadi tidak dilepas begitu saja. Termasuk juga tipping fee-nya yang dari government ya, dari pemerintah itu diatur oleh pemerintah. Jadi semua ditetapkan oleh pemerintah, Bapak Syahroni. Jadi pemerintah memegang kuasa penuh terhadap kontraktor ini. Jadi misal mungkin ya yang saya tangkap dari penjelasannya Freud bahwa pemerintah istilahnya membutuhkan kontraktor untuk mengangkut sampah begitu dengan nilai per tonnya misalnya adalah 10.000 atau 20.000. Nah, ini akan disebarkan ke kontraktor-kontraktor yang ada di sana. Siapa yang memiliki penawaran yang paling kompetitif, nah itu yang akan menjadi mitra dari pemerintah untuk mengerjakan pengelolaan sampah. Kurang lebih seperti itu Pak Dian Syahroni. Jadi memang itu dari pemerintah ya. Semua dari pemerintah yang atur. Apakah
Siap.
sudah jelas, Bapak?
Terima kasih, Ibu
Oke,
Guntik.
siap. Oke, baik. Jadi memang pemerintah ini peranannya kunci ya. Jadi mulai dari edukasi maupun enforcement. Enforcement itu adalah penegakan hukum, penegakan aturan. Nah, itu dari pemerintah. Kemudian ada lagi pertanyaan Bapak Ibu, ini mumpung ada Mr. Freud yang akan banyak sharing ya terkait dengan pengelolaan sampah di Filipina. Oke, di kolom chat dari Ibu atau Bapak Irenus, Ibu Iren ya, dari Manggarai, sistem pengolahan sampah Filipina yang sudah dijadikan model atau diadopsi di Indonesia di daerah mana? Mungkin dapat dijadikan pilot project untuk pengolahan sampah di daerah masing-masing peserta. Terima kasih. Jadi untuk program Zero Waste ini sudah diterapkan di beberapa daerah, Bu. Salah satunya Bali, ada di Bandung, ada di Cimahi. Jadi jika ingin belajar langsung begitu bisa belajar di Bali. Dan saya rasa Freud juga ini ya akan memberikan kesempatan. So Freud, you will give a chance to the governments here to come to learn in the Philippines, right?
Yes, so the invitation is, well, two ways. If anyone is interested to see how cities like San Fernando is able to properly implement, I'm not sure if this was mentioned by Guntik or the previous presentation, no, but San Fernando is really a leader right now in the last international conference. They've shared that their current waste diversion is 87% for the whole city. That's how much waste they were able to manage by composting and recycling and regulating certain plastics. So if you want to see how they do it, Gaia, together with PLH Bali and YPBB, would be happy to host you here in the Philippines. But also, I think as part of the Zero Waste Academy, we will be inviting some of you, as recommended by YPBB and PPLH Bali, to visit the Philippines, sponsored by Gaia as well. Good thing, I'm not sure if that's the one you're referring to, no, but the invitation is twofold via the academy, but also if anyone is just interested to come here, would be happy to host you as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, there's a question that where they can learn about the these programs. So I answers like they can come to Bali and also in Bandung they can learn. But I offer also if you have any support that they can join you in Philippines, so they can learn something in Philippines. Jadi Bapak Ibu, Freud juga sudah membuka kesempatan dan peluang ya. Jadi Bapak Ibu tidak hanya berkesempatan belajar di Indonesia, tetapi Freud mengundang melalui kami dari YPBB dan PPLH Bali nanti akan ada seleksi khusus ya. Nanti kita akan bisa berangkatkan ke Filipina untuk belajar langsung di San Fernando. Jadi San Fernando ini menjadi salah satu kota yang dijadikan percontohan di dunia untuk pengelolaan sampah berbasis zero waste. Kurang lebih seperti itu Ibu Iren. Yang pasti di Indonesia ada di Bali dan juga di Bandung. Ada lagi Bapak Ibu? Ya, terima kasih Mas Aziz dikoreksi ya, bidding itu tender ya. Saya Agak lupa lelang, saya ingatnya lelang. Ada lagi mungkin ada yang menanyakan terkait dengan struktur pemerintahan. Apakah sudah jelas bahwa di Filipina ya tadi dalam video itu sudah dijelaskan bahwa struktur pemerintahannya terkait dengan pengelolaan sampah itu mungkin cukup berbeda dengan yang ada di Indonesia. Jadi di sana memang ada khusus untuk bidang yang menaungi edukasi, kemudian ada tim monitoringnya. Nah, ini mungkin Bapak Ibu bisa berkesempatan untuk menanyakan lebih detail terkait dengan struktur ini. Silakan Bapak Ibu, saya berikan kesempatan. Oke, ini dari Bapak Budi. Izin bertanya, bantu translate. Maaf, saya terlambat masuk karena dipanggil Pak Kadis. Bagaimana pengolahan akhir yang dilakukan oleh kontraktor, apakah sampahnya dibakar seperti Singapura atau seperti gimana? Kemudian apakah kira-kira kontraktor mendapatkan keuntungan? Oke, Freud here, Pak Budi from Jembrana, from Bali, have one question about the contractors again, how the end of the process by the contractor is they incinerate that like a Singapore, or and also are they got the opportunity from these collaborations? That's
Yes.
it.
So how waste is managed in the Philippines isn't defined per city because we have a national law that Miko shared in the presentation before. And one of the key features of the national law is that incineration is banned in the Philippines. The only accepted end of life disposal facility is a sanitary landfill, and only for residual waste. No, so the law is clear in the Philippines that the only place where you can send your residual waste is a sanitary landfill, no incinerator, no open dump site. And even if you have a sanitary landfill, only the residuals can be sent there. No, the recyclables should be addressed at the barangay level. The organic should be composted either at the households or the barangay level, and the special or hazardous waste should be treated prior to disposal to a sanitary landfill.
For the second question, is they got the benefit from the collaborations, the contractors?
Not typically. I think that would be a good thing to explore, no, especially for Indonesia, for the Philippines. Typically, contractors are business driven and they are covered by a contract. So whatever the contract says, the contractors should just implement. No, otherwise they risk penalties, no, or cancellation of the contract. So for us here in the Philippines, the engagement has mostly with environmental agencies so that they're able to better have a strong contract or bidding process for the contractors, so that the contractors would then be just implementing whatever is defined in the contract.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Freud. So, saya jelaskan kembali Bapak Budi ya, kurang lebih bahwa di Filipina mereka ban itu artinya dilarang penuh untuk melakukan insinerator, jadi tidak boleh melakukan insinerator. Jadi pengelolaan sampah itu sebagian besar dilakukan, terutama di pemrosesan akhir adalah melalui sanitary landfill. Mungkin itu sudah sering kita dengar ya Bapak Ibu, saya rasa bukan hal baru ya. Jadi mereka prosesnya adalah sanitary landfill. Begitu juga dengan hazardous-nya, hazardous waste atau B3 ya, sampah B3-nya mereka juga dikelola dan di-maintain di sanitary landfill tersebut. Jadi tidak ada open dumping sudah tidak diperbolehkan, tidak boleh pembakaran sampah, dan hanya residu yang boleh masuk ke TPA. Nah, untuk keuntungan dari kontraktor itu yang disampaikan oleh Fry itu tidak 100% keuntungan ya, karena ini sifatnya bisnis. Jadi keuntungan justru didapatkan dari pelayanan yang mereka lakukan gitu. Semakin banyak mereka mengambil sampah lah ya istilahnya ya, segitu mereka akan mendapatkan. Lagi-lagi memang itu semua dikontrol oleh pemerintah. Jadi Environmental Agency atau DLH yang mengatur semuanya, termasuk juga kerjasamanya seperti apa. Nah, mungkin kalau kita ibaratkan ada samtaku gitu ya, jadi sebenarnya peranan pemerintah daerah ini bahwa di samtaku itu mereka akan menerima fee berapa dari pemerintah, kemudian produknya seperti apa. Nah, itu sebenarnya diatur di perjanjian kerjasama atau kontrak antara DLH dan TPS 3R. Nah, kurang lebih seperti itu. Dan lagi-lagi ya di Filipina itu ada regulasi nasional. Jadi ada regulasi nasional yang tidak memperbolehkan insinerator. Nah, ini yang mungkin membedakan dengan yang ada di Indonesia. Kita belum ada regulasi yang mengatur terkait dengan banning insinerator di national level. Kurang lebih seperti itu. Pak Budi, masih ada yang mau ditanyakan? Saya persilahkan.
Ya, izin Bu Gung.
Ya.
Terkait dengan tadi kontraktor tersebut, ini menarik sekali sebenarnya. Apa namanya? Kalau memang di Filipina itu menggunakan kontraktor, berarti kalau misalnya dari usaha itu ada keuntungan gitu ya. Kalau ada keuntungan, karena itu pun kontraktor pasti dapat untung dia kan. Apakah di Filipina itu ada berbentuk perumda, perusda atau badan usaha perumda ya, misalnya gitu ya, perusahaan umum. Nah, yang bekerja sama pemerintah, artinya kalau memang itu untung, kenapa tidak melibatkan perumda gitu ya? Karena itu kan nanti asetnya pengelolaan itu kan dapat keuntungan masuk ke ke daerah gitu ya, perumda yang mengelola gitu ya. Apakah ada perumda gitu dulu? Kalau memang menunjuk kontraktor, berarti kontraktor itu kan tidak mungkin perusahaan CP bergerak di bidang pengelolaan sampah yang merugi gitu ya. Kalau menguntungkan, ya kalau dari dulu mengelola sampah itu untung, saya rasa tidak ada permasalahan seperti sekarang. Jadi semua pengusaha akan berlomba-lomba untuk mengelola sampah ya. Tapi hasilnya, kenyataannya bahwa pengelolaan sampah itu jarang sekali untung ya. Jangankan untung, BEP aja, break even point aja susah begitu ya. Seperti yang kita alami. Nah, ini ditunjuk kontraktor menggunakan pola lelang sebagainya. Jadi dia ada minat mendaftar, itu berarti kan aslinya ada untung. Kalau misalnya ada untung, kenapa tidak melibatkan perumda atau melibatkan apa istilahnya? Kalau di Filipina ada ya, Bu Gung, saya nggak tahu kalau di sana ada perumda atau tidak ya istilahnya gitu. Jadi itu pertanyaan saya. Mungkin bantu translate, Bu Gung. Terima kasih.
Pak Budi kayaknya sebenarnya lancar bahasa Inggris ya ini. Okay, so Freud, Pak Budi, have two questions actually. The first question is there a government-owned enterprise that Philippines have, like the institutional or organizations? And the second, why the contractors, why the Philippines have a waste management contractor if they are a business, Pak Budi thinks that they got the profit from what they done. Why don't the government do it? Why you use the contractor? Yeah, hope you understand what my question is.
Yes, thank you. So on the first question, unfortunately, there's no government-owned enterprise that
Yes.
handles waste management. All the contractors are privately owned businesses, which I think goes to the second question. For us, it's also a concern, and the cost is not cheap, when you engage with private contractors, because at the end of the day, they are a business. Aside from the cost of providing the service, they need to earn a profit. But somehow, for some cities in the Philippines, it's seen as a more cost-efficient way because then the people who are collecting the waste, the trucks owned there, is not something that is a recurring cost for them, but it's something that's externalized by the contractors, and they're just paid on an annual basis. For us, as mentioned a while ago, the best system has still always has been in the Philippines, where it is managed by the city itself. One, it's more cost efficient, it's cheaper. Second, they have better control. And third, they're able to, there's more incentive to reduce the waste and implement zero waste programs because no profit will be impacted. Just to give an example, almost all of the model zero waste sites in the Philippines has been a setup where the city is the one doing the collection together with the barangays. The moment the private contractors come in, it's so hard to convince the city to implement zero waste programs because the contractors would then say that we don't want zero waste. We don't want you to reduce your waste because that would be less income for them. No? So if you are a city official and you haven't yet engaged with the contractor, I would really encourage you to consider again and again the benefits, because if your goal is to manage the waste properly with the least cost to the city, then it might be worth exploring either doing it internally within the city or an enterprise, but still being controlled by the city, so that waste management doesn't become a profit-making scheme for private individuals. And I think last point from me on this is that I'm glad that city officials like you are asking these questions, because for us, that's also a great example of an injustice, where the businesses who produce these products that turns out waste are earning a profit from it. And we can't have the same capitalist system earn, because what happens is it becomes a cycle where there's incentive for people to produce more waste, and incentive for companies, for contractors to collect this waste, because everyone's getting money from it. And what happens is that the city and the taxpayers are the ones shouldering the cost for everyone, including the cost of producing these problematic products like plastics, as well as the cost for the city to address and manage all of this.
Oke, alright. Pak Budi, apakah sudah memahami? Jadi di Filipina tidak ada badan usaha milik daerah atau perusda dan lainnya, itu tidak ada. Yang kedua, sudah disampaikan oleh Freud bahwa memang pengolahan sampah itu tidak ada untung secara finansial ya. Jadi tidak ada keuntungannya. Justru di sini peranan di justru si kontraktor ini ya, tadi menarik yang disampaikan Freud adalah kontraktor ini tidak 100% mendukung dari program zero waste ini. Kenapa? Semakin sedikit sampah yang masuk, semakin sedikit sampah yang bisa mereka kelola, insentifnya semakin sedikit gitu. Nah, justru sekarang dikembalikan lagi ke pemerintah daerah. Apakah goalnya itu adalah manage waste properly ya tadi, apakah pengelolaan sampah yang baik? Kalau untuk pengelolaan sampah yang baik, maka rekomendasinya adalah menggunakan konsep zero waste city. Kenapa menggunakan konsep zero waste city? Karena pengeluarannya akan jauh lebih murah. Jadi kontraktor-kontraktor yang ada di Filipina sana juga diseleksi betul-betul Pak Budi. Jadi yang tidak bisa menjalankan konsep zero waste city ini tidak akan diajak kolaborasi begitu. Makanya ini peranan pemerintah sebenarnya. Jadi bukan masalah keuntungan secara berapa yang didapat Pak Budi, tapi ini kan lebih ke bagaimana mengefektifkan cost. Jadi ada cost efektif tadi dijelaskan oleh Freud dari kegiatan ini. Kenapa kemudian kontraktor inilah yang digunakan, dan itu ada seleksinya. Begitu Pak Budi, apakah jelas atau kurang?
Ya, jelas. Terima kasih. Cuman menarik aja. Jadi kontraktor itu ikut lelang atau ikut tender untuk bergerak di bidang ini ya. Yang jelas-jelas bahwa bisa jadi tidak untung ya gitu ya. Ini menarik
Ya, betul.
sekali
Tadi
ya.
udah disampaikan.
Iya,
Ya,
iya, siap.
bahkan tidak untung sama sekali kontraktor. Tapi ya yang namanya bisnis itu resiko ya. Oke, di sini sudah ada Pak Vicky yang bergabung. Silakan Bapak ingin menanggapi. Jadi Pak Vicky ini adalah rekan dari YPBB Bandung. Beliau juga salah satu fasilitator ya hari ini. Silakan Pak Vicky.
Iya, Bapak-bapak, Ibu-ibu, maaf saya terlambat. Tadi ada rapat lain yang agak panjang. Maaf saya nggak nyalain ini ya, apa namanya, nggak nyalain video nih soalnya koneksinya masih agak kurang baik. Jadi kalau misalnya saya masuk kayaknya nanti putus-putus. Jadi saya mau meng-highlight beberapa hal ya yang tadi disampaikan sama Proy juga yang cukup penting menurut saya. Jadi satu, sebagian besar pengolahan sampah di Filipina itu justru tidak pakai kontraktor. Tadi disebutkan bahwa hanya di kota-kota besar seperti Metro Manila yang menggunakan kontraktor gitu. Selain itu mereka menggunakan mereka yang jalan itu adalah pemerintah daerahnya sendiri bekerja sama dengan barangay ya, pemerintah desa gitu. Jadi ada pembagian tugas antara pemerintah desa dengan pemerintah kota gitu. Nah, kemudian di mereka juga sistem di Filipina itu sistem pemerintahannya agak berbeda dengan kita ya. Jadi kalau di kita tuh ada kota, ada kabupaten gitu ya. Kabupaten hubungannya beda dengan desa. Kalau di sana tuh cuma satu gitu. Jadi di level atas sama barangainya itu pemerintah yang desanya yang kelurahan atau desa gitu itu sama statusnya. Jadi nggak berbeda. Nah, sekali lagi saya nyambung lagi tidak dibedakan antara yang pakai kontraktor itu hanya sedikit dan mereka pakai kontraktor itu ngelihat efektivitas aja gitu loh karena banyak yang harus diurus dan lain-lain ya. Jadi seperti yang tadi dikatakan kalau misalnya kotanya kota besar ya mereka pakai kontraktor karena PPLH-nya mungkin juga banyak yang harus diurus ya. Jadi mereka melihat sebagai ini lebih cost efektif. Tapi di komentar yang kedua tadi Prof juga bilang bahwa sebetulnya kurang ngelihatnya itu gini. Kalau pemerintah yang langsung turun tangan, satu biaya pengelolaan sampah jadi lebih murah karena tadi kontraktor itu kan bisnis dia harus dapat profit kan gitu dari situ. Jadi pengelolaan sampah akan jauh lebih mahal dibandingkan dengan kalau misalnya pemerintah turun langsung dengan menggunakan uang pajak dari masyarakat. Jadi di sana tuh pakainya uang pajak. Nanti ada pertanyaan juga di kolom chat. Tadi saya lihat berapa iuran sampah di sana ya. Nanti tolong ditanyain ya, Gintik ya. Gitu. Seingat saya, setahu saya itu nggak ada iuran ya. Jadi orang pada bayar pajak, kemudian dari uang pajak itulah yang kemudian masuk ke daerah ya, masuk ke jadi jadi pendapatan daerah yang kemudian dipakai untuk pengolahan sampah. Itu kurang lebih seperti itu sistemnya. Satu hal lagi yang perlu di-highlight adalah kenapa pemerintah daerah langsung menangani pengolahan sampah di sana, karena itu bisa terintegrasi dengan berbagai macam kebijakan yang lain ya, kayak misalnya tadi yang disebutkan sama Guntik dan Proy juga adalah kalau kita nerapin zero waste maka akan lebih sedikit kan sampah yang masuk ke kontraktor itu, jadinya nggak untung. Dan sekaligus juga pemerintah tuh bisa langsung mendorong bukan hanya pemilahan tapi juga pengurangan sampah kayak pelarangan plastik sekali pakai dan lain-lain. Itu yang berjalan di San Fernando itu adalah itu ya proses itu, dan mereka bisa berhasil karena pemerintah yang megang langsung gitu, nggak diserahkan ke kontraktor. Kontraktor kan nggak punya kapasitas hukum ya untuk mendorong kebijakannya pemerintah. Dia hanya melaksanakan gitu apa yang diminta oleh pemerintah. Saya pikir gitu. Terima kasih.
Siap, terima kasih banyak Pak Vicky atas highlight-highlightnya. Semoga lebih jelas ya Bapak Ibu. Di sini kita punya banyak pertanyaan. So far we have a lot of questions here in the chat rooms. But I think that we can continue the video first, and after that we can get back and doing the discussion again. Jadi Bapak Ibu kita akan mendengarkan lebih lanjut tadi ya videonya kita potong sebentar. Jadi sekarang kita lanjutkan mendengarkan satu video dulu. Kita habiskan videonya, setelah itu kita baru lanjut ke sesi tanya jawab, sesi diskusi. Kepada tim teknis saya persilakan untuk melanjutkan video yang tadi. Suaranya belum keluar, mungkin belum dicek.
Foundation, and I'll go through them each one briefly. First, we have local leaders. They have the potential to become zero waste champions. Under Section 10 of the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, local government units, which are represented by mayors, governors, and village heads, they are primarily and part of that mandate given to these local leaders is to design or come up with a 10-year solid waste management plan. As I've discussed earlier, the national government through the National Solid Waste Management Commission is tasked to come up with a national solid waste management plan. But at the local level, the cities, the municipalities, and provinces, they're also required or mandated to come up with their own plans, at least 10-year for the 10-year period, to serve as their guide for outlining or implementing waste management programs in the respective jurisdictions. And if you have access to these slides, you can click some of the sample slides or the sample plans from 2 cities in the Philippines, one from San Fernando. I've shared some snippets of that plan in the previous slides, and another one for Quezon City, which is about the same size of Bandung City. And the national government provides a template or a manual on how to write this reports or this plan, so governments can just follow it, and ideally they need to update it or take a look at it every 2 years just to make sure it's updated and they're able to be on track with regard to their targets. So the components of the 10-year solid waste management plan. So this is what you will see in maybe the table of contents or the outline of a typical document. So first, it starts with a profile of the city, the municipality, which contains general information about the area, the land area, population, list officials, and so on. Second, there's a explanation or chapter on the current solid waste management practices in the city. So it could also give a recap of the previous 10-year waste management plan of the city and what has been accomplished, and maybe some of the targets that maybe the city has missed from the previous plan. Third, you have your WACs, or that's your baseline data. In the Philippines, the national government encourages the cities or local governments to update their waste data every 10 years. So we know how tedious doing this waste characterization survey. So at least they encourage them to do this every 10 years. And then up to them if they feel or they have additional resources if they need to update it more frequently. Next, there's a list of policies and legal framework on how waste management is anchored in the city. So this includes the localized version of the Republic Act 9003, the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act. So this is the guiding national law that mandates local governments to sort their waste and transition to zero waste. And it will also contain some policies related to waste management, such as plastic use regulations. And I'm not sure if maybe there are also regulations on maybe on final disposal sites like landfills, or maybe procurement of new services, especially from the private sector, if they need to, for example, hire private contractors for disposal services. Next, you have, I think this would be the main body or chunk of this report or this document, the solid waste management system. This covers the collection schedule, routes, how many trucks are we getting, the inventory of facilities in the city, and so on. Next is the social, institutional, and environmental aspects of the plan. So this includes some of the risks involved in implementing the plan. This will also cover, for example, if there are some social impacts when building, for example, a new sanitary landfill, or if there are some concerns about building an MRF or a composting facility near houses. So in this chapter, they document some concerns from residents, for example, that are in a way not, in a way a bit hesitant in terms of doing or building these waste management facilities near their neighborhoods. Second to the last is you have your cost estimates or budgets. So they outline here how much are they spending every year. Since it's a 10-year plan, so they make a projection for 10 years. Usually you'll see the incremental increase in terms of budget based on the population growth of the city or the municipality. Last, you have the implementation plan. So this covers the schedule and or the timetable for implementing this plan. The implementation plan covers, for example, if the city plans to do for example, they plan to start or adopt zero waste. So maybe the first phase would include introducing it in several pilots. The second phase, or maybe just a hypothetical, it would be year 3 to year 6. You have maybe an expansion moving to several districts, and then towards the latter years, you have your citywide implementation. So for this particular slide, local leaders are not alone in turning their cities into zero waste models. They also rely on support coming from various stakeholders, and these stakeholders can become part of the local solid waste management boards because in the law it requires this committee or this board to be multi-sectoral. So that means it should be represented by different sector leaders in a city or community. These waste management board, they are tasked to develop a waste management plan, so the 10-year waste management plan, including oversight of the implementation, reviewing the plans every 2 to 3 years, organizing regular meetings, and making sure that they're coordinating the implementation with barangays, especially talking to village heads. Third is specific to service contracting. So that means if ever the city or the municipality or local government decides to outsource the waste collection to a private contractor. So the Solid Waste Management Board is responsible for reviewing or making sure that the city is getting a fair share of the deal in terms of the contract. There are a number of cities that are in a way doing this, hiring private contractors or businesses to handle waste collection, especially in highly urbanized areas. But at least in practice, what we're seeing in some of the zero waste models here in the Philippines, like in San Fernando, they usually manage their own waste management programs. Number two, waste diversion targets. So according to the law, each local government should reach or achieve 25 diversion rate 5 years after the law's passing. So that means 2005. And then in the previous National Waste Management Plan, it reported that it was, at least in the Philippines, was able to reach 50% average diversion rate by 2015. At least almost 50%. In Metro Manila, for example, it's 48, and then in other places, it's 46%. The target for 2022, according to the medium-term Philippine Development Plan for 2017 to 2022, the target is 80%, so it's quite ambitious. It will be quite a tall order challenge for not just for the national government, but at least for the cities and municipalities to reach this. And we, at least of now, we have only a few cities that have in a way achieved or reached this target. So you have San Fernando, you have some barangays in Metro Manila that are already reaching the target, but looking at the country as a whole, it might be a difficult task ahead of them, considering that this is only it's ready next year. Number three, the law, of course, mandates sorting of waste. So two sections, Section 1 and Section 22, both recommend the sorting of waste at source. So even for households, for institutional, for industrial, commercial, and other waste generators. And the categories that are being recommended are 4. So you have your compostables or biodegradable, non-recyclable, which is also called residual, recyclable waste, and special waste. So special waste refer to items such as diapers, napkins, and such. So just to show you the example of the fines and penalties in the city of San Fernando, when people or businesses or other waste generators violate certain provisions of the local city ordinances. And you'll see here if a particular person or waste generator fails to sort their waste or decides to burn the waste or litter anywhere or give away plastic-free bags, there you'll see in the third column there are recommended fines for these particular violations. So the fines are in pesos, so it ranges from 200 pesos to 5,000 pesos, depending on the severity of the violation. Aside from the fines, people can also get imprisoned, probably for the maybe for the third offense. When they reach the third offense, there's a possibility that they can be imprisoned or render community service for 1 to 15 days. connection to number 3, of course, if you're sorting your waste, then you should not mix them again. And I think this is a frustrating problem for those people that have already started sorting, and then they see the sorted waste getting mixed when it's collected by someone from the government. So when a collector passes through their house, takes their sorted waste, and then puts them in one bin. So that's frustrating. And in this particular law, mixing of waste, it's not allowed. So and each local government, they put out posters or education materials just to remind people about the collection schedule, the classification or the categories of waste, and some of the hotlines if they need some support in terms of waste sorting, or if they need to report someone who's violating the law. Number 5, the Republic Act 9003, it also mandates the closure of all dump sites, existing dump sites in the Philippines. And according to the law, the only disposal method that's allowed is a sanitary landfill. So sanitary landfill should only accommodate residual waste. That means the types of materials that can no longer be recycled or composted. So in the Philippines, it's been a challenge to close these illegal dump sites. Back in 2010, there were more than 1,000. To date, at least as of March 2021, there are around 160, at least 160 dump sites left. So the government is still working on making sure that they're closed, hopefully by year end. And part of this provision is to actually rehabilitate these dump sites. In this case, San Fernando, in this picture, there used to be a dump site in the city, and because they need to, in a way, follow and try to transform into a zero waste model, so they need to close it and rehabilitate it. The city is now sending its waste, at least the residual waste, to a sanitary landfill from another located in another province. Aside from dump sites, the law also prohibits the burning of waste. So incineration is not allowed or prohibited. And there's also an emphasis on proper segregation, collection, transport, and storage and treatment and disposal of solid waste using the best environmental practices. And aside from the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, there's also the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999, which prohibits burning of waste or incineration. Next, number 7, it's a reiteration of numbers 3 and 4. So focuses on proper collection, on proper waste collection, making sure that there are no dumping of waste in curbsides or outside the houses. So that means if you go and maybe do a study tour or have a look in cities that are practicing proper waste management in the Philippines, households and other waste generators are not allowed to bring out their waste and just hang it somewhere or put it in a curbside or in a post. So they need to wait for the collector to approach their house or designate a collection point, maybe an MRF in their particular community or city. As you see in this poster, they need to follow a certain schedule. So outside the schedule, people can bring out their waste. And lastly, they only people are encouraged or required to hand over sorted waste to authorized collectors. They can't ask someone to sort their waste for them for a fee, because there's a possibility that that person can put your sorted waste or that collected waste in other places like waterways or curbsides. Number 8, proper treatment of hazardous waste. So hazardous waste should not be mixed with residue or residual waste. In cities or municipalities, they are required to have special collection schedules. So in some cities, you can actually call your local government to schedule the collection of hazardous waste. And usually, since these are not a lot in compared to the other fractions of municipal waste, so governments or barangays or cities try to store them temporarily until they're in a way more cost effective to collect in bulk. For medical waste, for example, the advice is, or the recommendation is to use non-burn technologies such as autoclaving or sterilization. So these technologies in a way try to sterilize or clean the virus or the contaminants in a discarded medical waste so that they can become safe for disposal in landfills. So again, in this particular provision, burning is still not allowed, but they can look for services that provide sterilization treatment.
Baik, Bapak Ibu, kurang lebih itu adalah treatment pengolahan sampah yang ada di Filipina. Ya, semua sudah terjawab dari pertanyaan-pertanyaan ini. Mungkin nanti saya bantu untuk dipertegas oleh Froy terkait dengan pertanyaan Bapak Tonis dan juga Ibu Diva. Ya, ini hampir mirip. Hello, Froy, you're still here?
Yes.
Right. So Define Tonis has, I think, a little bit same questions is regarding the local leader or zero waste champion. So what their role and how they can build, I mean that they formed, like they doing the routines discussion or routine meetings too or not, and also how about the preparation of the MRF, is they doing it so or not? The zero waste champion or local leader.
Yes. For the Philippine context, it is important for us to highlight that waste management is a local issue, and under the national law where management of waste is decentralized, it provides an opportunity for local leaders to step up, and where we've seen zero waste to be effective and to be working in the Philippines is when different layers of local leadership actually takes ownership of waste management. So in the case of San Fernando, you have a mayor who saw that you cannot separate economic development with environmental protection, and waste is an area where that could play out. So the mayor prioritized waste management, both from the perspective of protecting the environment, but also to conserve public money, because they be wasting a lot of money on waste management if you don't implement zero waste. And from a health perspective, where they're able to address a lot of the health issues that the city is facing. So based on these reasons, the mayor, the local leader, was the champion. But the reality is that even if you have a mayor who is a champion, if this is not supported by the bureaucrats, it would still be difficult. So for us, what we saw in San Fernando is the head of the environment agency actually was also the champion. They were really active in making sure that we have the right policy, we have the right resources supported by the mayor, and the implementation happens on the ground. So at the city level, it's the mayor and the head of the environment agency. And then at the kelurahan or barangay level, we have the barangay captains. They're also elected in the Philippines, so they also step up as champions. And when you have this support system of the mayor providing the leadership, the head of the environment agency providing the implementation leadership, and the head of the LoRa providing support to engage with the community, then you elevate local champions to address waste.
Also, one question: is there have routine meetings with the community?
Yes. So depending on which level, the mayor is involved in what we call the City Solid Waste Management Board. So the mayor is the chairman of that board, and you have the stakeholders. You have the women's organization, you have the youth organization, you have the leaders of the waste workers, you have the business leaders. They all are part of that, and they meet once a month to engage, with all the stakeholders. That's for the mayor. For the LoRa, or the head of the barangay in the Philippines, what they do is they really do on the ground community consultation, where they gather their constituents and meet with them and consult with them, especially in the early part of the program, where they are consulting on the design and the system to be implemented for waste management in their barangays.
Thank you, Froy. Semoga sudah menjawab ya dari Mbak Diva dan Kak Tony. Saya coba rekap begitu ya. Mereka punya kegiatan rutin. Kalau untuk kepala daerah itu atau wali kota itu mereka melakukan sekali sebulan. Dan itu pun yang diundang adalah representasi kepala-kepala mulai PKK begitu ya, kemudian youth organization atau organisasi kepemudaan, nah itu diundang semua, dan itu ada rapat rutin. Begitu juga di desa-desa atau di kelurahan. Jadi intinya lokal championnya ini itu bukan dari masyarakat, tapi memang leadernya langsung. Jadi wali kotanya maupun kepala daerah dan juga kepala desa, kepala kelurahan itu menjadi lokal champion atau lokal leader di program Zero Waste ini. Kurang lebih seperti itu disampaikan. So ya, pemimpinnya semua ikut ya. Jadi keberhasilan ini memang tonggaknya ada di kepala daerah. Gitu ya, dari pemimpinnya. Semua harus bisa menjadi local leader. Nah, Froy, here's just a moment. Yeah, this come from Manggarai Timur, this Eastern Indonesia, from Bu Irin. He asking for the role of the government, the business sector, and also the community. Is there any regulation that regulates the role of each stakeholder?
Yes, in the Philippines, we are lucky that we have the national regulation, the one that Nico mentioned, Republic Act 9003, and part of that regulation actually mandates or clarifies the role of each stakeholder. So in summary, the roles are the community, specifically the households, are mandated to segregate their waste. Then the kelurahan or the desa is required to provide the first collection, segregated collection, and to manage the organics and the recyclables. And then the quota is then tasked to collect and safely dispose of the residuals, the plastic. And then for the businesses, there are different roles for them. One of the most basic and obvious is for them to share part of the cost of waste management. So there's a waste tax for most of the businesses. For the big ones, they're also required to shift packaging and problematic products away from single-use and disposable packaging. So part of the national law says that there is a non-environmentally acceptable packaging list, and a product that's included in the list, the businesses should phase out or stop producing this. Admittedly, even if this is in the law, it's still not enough. And that is why we encourage our cities to speak up, because from our perspective, a lot of the burden of waste management rests with the community and with the cities. and the businesses are not doing enough. And we need to tell them that as cities, as communities, we are taking a big chunk of the responsibility, and businesses have to do more. And one way to do it is to do the waste and brand audit, so that we identify, which companies are responsible for the products that are problematic in your cities. If you're not able to compose and recycle them, let's show who's producing them so that these companies would stop producing them.
Oke, thank you, Froy. Jadi Ibu Iren, saya coba ringkas ya jawaban dari Froy. Jadi di Filipina ada regulasi nasional ya yang mengatur peranan-peranan stakeholder, mulai dari pemerintah, mulai dari masyarakat, pemerintah desa, pemerintah kabupaten kota, dan juga bisnis sektor. Untuk masyarakat sendiri memang itu mandatori atau wajib ya untuk melakukan pemilahan sampah dari sumber. Kemudian dari desa atau kelurahan itu harus memberikan pelayanan pengangkutan sampah yang terpilah. Kemudian dari kota itu memiliki mandat atau berkewajiban untuk melakukan penanganan residu. Jadi mengangkut sampah-sampah yang tidak bisa didaur ulang. Sedangkan untuk bisnis sektor itu akan justru agak berbeda ya, tanggung jawabnya bukan di pemilahan, tapi mereka harus bertanggung jawab terhadap produk-produk yang mereka hasilkan. Jadi memang dilarang untuk menggunakan produk sekali pakai. Jadi ada list yang dilarang oleh pemerintah nasional di Filipina kepada para bisnis. Nah, begitu juga dengan skala bisnis yang lebih besar begitu ya, mereka harus membayar tax, pajak juga, dan penting untuk kita mendorong kegiatan WABA atau Waste Analysis Brand Audit. Tadi disampaikan oleh Froy bahwa ini masuk di tahapan pertama ya Bu ya, Bapak Ibu, bahwa ini masuk di profiling data. Jadi WAX, Waste Analysis Character Study untuk melihat timbulan sampah, kemudian ada yang namanya brand audit. Ini bagaimana data ini bisa kita gunakan untuk meminta pertanggungjawaban dari produsen maupun bisnis sektor yang lebih besar. Semoga menjawab Ibu Iren pertanyaannya. Okay, also here, Froy, can you please share about the technical waste management of the hazardous waste in sanitary landfill?
Okay.
This I asked from Pak Dian.
Yeah, so the law that I mentioned, RA 9003, only covers household waste. There is a separate national law, RA 6969, that mandates a separate management of medical and hazardous waste. The simplest of this is that they should not be collected together with the other waste. There should be separate collection for special and hazardous waste, and they should be treated before they are sent to a sanitary landfill for disposal. So, for example, in the Philippines, medical waste, there is the hospitals are using autoclaving, to treat hospital waste, infectious waste, and then only then can it be sent to a sanitary landfill. Other types of hazardous waste, chemical waste, have their own specific ways of managing them. But in the city's context, what is important is that they should not be collected together with the other waste. For electronic waste from the households, of course, we know that for most of them, they need to be treated, but the collection doesn't have to be totally separate. So batteries, for example, or masks can be collected via the DESA or the Kelurahan collection, but then there's a separate storage for it, including light bulbs, including old appliances, old computers. And then the rule is that even if they're collected at that level, they should not be sent to a sanitary landfill. They should be sent to a treatment facility before they are either recycled or sent to a landfill.
Oke, kurang lebih seperti itu Bapak Dian Syaroni. Jadi memang ada satu regulasi khusus ya yang mengatur terkait dengan penanganan hazardous waste yang terpisah dari regulasi yang lain. Jadi memang untuk penanganan hazardous waste dibedakan antara medical dan juga household atau rumah tangga. Nah, kalau untuk yang rumah tangga tadi disebutkan ada baterai, lampu, itu memang hanya dikumpulkan dan hanya disimpan di MRF. Ini sudah dibantu terjemahkan juga. Semoga menjawab. Untuk pertanyaan dari Mbak Diva, sekali lagi lokal leader itu dari komitmen Pemdanya, Mbak. Memang tidak semua Pemda ya tadi disampaikan oleh Freud bisa menjalankan program Zero Waste ini. Jadi belum semua berkomitmen untuk bagaimana bisa menciptakan pemodelan zero waste. Tapi lagi-lagi memang bagi yang sudah komitmen begitu seperti yang ada di San Fernando, mereka komitmen melakukan dan mengimplementasikan program zero waste, ya mereka mengikuti tahapan dari 1 sampai akhir sehingga itu bisa jalan. Kenapa kemudian San Fernando menjadi daerah percontohan terbaik ya terkait dengan model zero waste. Seperti itu Mbak Diva. Ini dari Bapak Melvi, mungkin bisa disampaikan terkait apa yang menyebabkan kesadaran masyarakat di San Fernando begitu tinggi terhadap penanganan sampah. Misalnya patutan terhadap waktu pembuangan sampah, karena saya pikir implementasi Zero Waste City tanpa keterlibatan publik tentu tidak akan terlaksana. Saya refer sedikit ya dari yang disampaikan Freud, Bapak Melvi, bahwa ini bukan titik tekannya tidak ada di masyarakat, tapi di pemimpinnya. Jadi lokal leadernya yang tadi atau zero waste championnya itu lokal leader atau zero waste championnya itu berasal dari kepala daerahnya, Bapak Melvi. Jadi bukan publik bisa ikut ketika leadernya itu sudah memandatkan atau membuat satu keputusan, begitu Bapak Melvi. Mungkin saya bisa tanyakan lagi, Freud, Bapak Melvi from Sumba Timur asking for the public participation. How could they can involve and how could they can participate and give 100 support for the government so zero waste is possible to do?
Thank you for that question. I really like that question. And I'd like to share, I think many of our local officials in the Philippines also had the same question or the same problem when we were starting. No, many of the officials initially thought that it would be difficult to convince our citizens, our communities to fully participate. No, and there was one local leader who gave a powerful statement, and he said that we need to trust people to be able to do the right thing, because if we don't trust them, we don't deserve to be leaders for them. No, like he said, you have no right to be a mayor if you think people would not be able to do the right thing. What we've seen is that there are several key ingredients for people to fully participate. Number one, there should be enough education campaign. People have to know what our programs are, what they need to do. Second, it has to be a system that works for them. What a common thing that we've heard is that people would say, "You're asking me to segregate my waste," but then a truck would come and would mix everything together. So it becomes frustrating for people. No, so the system should be logical, should be working for them. And third, they need to see the benefits. No, it has to be a consistent effort. No, you can't just be collecting segregated waste on week 1 and then stop on week 2 and not continue it. It has to be consistent. So education is 1, 2 is a system that works for them, and 3, enforcement and continuous reminders, and then people would fully participate. In the Philippine context, in more than 100 Kelurahan or cities where we implemented the zero waste program, whether it is a rich community, a poor community, middle class community, everyone participated if we involve them in the planning and the implementation.
Oke, thank you so much, Froy. Jadi kurang lebih ada 3 hal ya tadi dijelaskan. Yang pertama adanya kecukupan kampanye, kecukupan edukasi ya ke masyarakat, kemudian pendampingan, dan yang ketiga adalah penegakan aturan. Jadi memang masyarakat ini dimandatkan untuk bisa involve, jadi mereka diajak berpartisipasi, mereka diikutsertakan dalam perancangan. Jadi itu yang menyebabkan kenapa kemudian masyarakat bisa 100% ikut. Oke, saya buka satu question lagi ya, karena ini sudah lewat jamnya. Berapa banyak fasilitas penanganan yang sudah ada di San Fernando dan apa saja fasilitas itu? Karena tadi disampaikan bahwa sebelum sampah-sampah tersebut berada di sanitary landfill harus melewati perlakuan-perlakuan tertentu. Oke, Freud, this is the last question. How many facility or MRF there exist in the San Fernando, and what that facility? Yes, only 2. So
Yeah.
how many and what the facility?
So in San Fernando, there are city-level facilities and community-level materials recovery facilities. There are 35 kelurahan in San Fernando. Right now, they have 180 community materials recovery facilities, meaning 1 for every kelurahan, 1 for every private subdivision, 1 for every school, and big businesses, big compounds have their own materials recovery facilities. So again, 35 kelurahan, but 180 materials recovery facilities. That's at the community level. At the city level, they have a central materials recovery facility. It's a big facility managed by the city, and it serves as a drop-off point for all the residuals. So from the community MRF, the barangays, the kelurahan would do collection house to house, store it in the community MRF, and then once they have enough, they bring it to the transfer station in the city central materials recovery facility. And that's where they combine everything from the different kelurahan and then send to a landfill, but only the residuals. They also have a space to store and to aggregate, put together the low-value recyclables. These are the recyclable materials that are not being brought by the local junk shops. So what they do is they store them temporarily, and then once they have enough volume, it is the city who sells directly to a recycler, not via the junk shop.
Oh, okay.
And third, of course, is a storage for the hazardous waste from the households. TVs, batteries, LCD lamps, and things like that. It's being stored there and being sent, once there's enough volume, sent to a treater. And lastly, of course, they have several composting facilities. There's a composting facility in the city market, in the transfer station, and one other site, so that they're able to address the organic waste as well. But this is organic waste that is left over after most of it has been managed in the community MRF.
All right. Oh, super cool. Jadi Bapak Jonas, jadi kurang lebih ada 35 desa kelurahan, di mana di sana ada 180 TPS 3R ya kalau kita sebutnya, atau MRF, Material Recovery Facility, ada 180. 180 ini tidak hanya terdiri di tingkat desa, tetapi juga ada di sub-village ya, kalau kita nyebutnya mungkin di dusun, di RW, di RT juga ada yang kecil-kecil seperti itu. Jadi rutenya adalah dari masyarakat memilah, kemudian dibawa ke TPS 3R yang ada di sana, ada 180 TPS 3R. Jika ada sisa, nah di tingkat kota kita mungkin sering dengar namanya TPST. Nah itu di tingkat kota akan dibuat ada satu TPST yang besar ya, yang bisa menampung residu, termasuk juga hazardous waste yang bukan hazardous ya, seperti lampu, baterai. Nah itu ditampung di sentral atau TPST di skala kota. Begitu Bapak Jonas. Alright, I think that's all. Thank you so much, Froy. Dan Bapak Ibu yang sudah bertanya, terima kasih banyak. atas antusiasmenya, atas partisipasinya. Sekali lagi, jika ingin belajar langsung itu bisa ke Bali, bisa ke Bandung, dan nanti akan ada kesempatan juga ke Filipina. Nanti akan disupport oleh Gaya. Jadi Bapak Ibu yang serius ini belajar dan mau mengimplementasikan program Zero Waste ini, nanti kita bisa berangkatkan ke Filipina. Gitu langsung bisa belajar di San Fernando ya. Kalau saya kemarin belajarnya di Siquijor Island. Siquijor Island itu di pulau kecilnya, di salah satu pulau kecil yang ada di Filipina. Nah itu juga menarik, itu sangat keren. Dan memang yang saya lihat langsung ya, bagaimana pengolahan sampah di sana bergantung dari lokal leadernya, dari pemimpinnya, dari kepala daerahnya. Dan memang mereka benar-benar komitmen dari wali kotanya, mayornya itu komitmen dalam mengimplementasikan zero waste. Kurang lebih seperti itu Bapak Ibu, semoga mendapatkan insight yang banyak. Insight yang banyak dari pertemuan ini dan bisa mengimplementasikan program Zero Waste di daerah maupun kota Bapak Ibu. And thank you so much, Froy, for your time. We are happy to having you today, and we are sorry that I think that over time, a little bit late. Dan sekian presentasi hari ini dari Bapak Vicky maupun Ibu Catur. Apakah ada yang mau ditambahkan sebelum ditutup? Saya kembalikan ke Pak Vicky dan Ibu Catur.
Saya pikir,
Mungkin
oh ya Mas Vicky, ya silakan. Sudah hadir
sedikit.
Mas Vicky.
Sorry,
Ya,
sorry.
silakan,
Sedikit aja teman-teman. Kalau lihat dari ceritanya Froy barusan, sebetulnya kunci dari keberhasilan ya pengolahan sampah di Filipina itu terletak di integrasi dari seluruh aspek pengolahan sampahnya ya. Jadi bukan hanya bergantung pada peraturan misalnya ya, tapi juga pada pemimpin daerahnya gitu ya. Tapi pemimpin daerah juga nggak bisa melakukan apa-apa kalau peraturannya nggak ada. Itu kan juga penting ya untuk di highlight gitu. Jadi nggak sepenuhnya, apalagi bergantung pada kesadaran masyarakatnya gitu. Tadi disebutkan juga di highlight bahwa kesadaran masyarakat itu mereka tuh akan ikut gitu ya, ngikut sistem yang dijalankan asalkan satu mereka clear gitu. Apa yang mau dijalanin sih gitu ya. Terus apa yang harus saya lakukan gitu, kurang lebih seperti itu. Itu yang perlu ada dan tertulis di dalam produk kebijakannya di level kota kabupaten minimal gitu. Menurut saya itu sih tambahan dari saya. Makasih.
Baik, Bapak Vicky, Ibu Catur ada? Cukup? Oke. Ya, baik Bapak Ibu, sekian sesi 5 ini ya. Kita akan ketemu lagi besok dengan catatan ini ada satu PR Bapak Ibu, mohon menyiapkan dokumen kebijakan yang sudah dimiliki oleh daerah Bapak Ibu. Jika ada peraturan Perda, Pergub, Perbub begitu ya, boleh di search dan dipersiapkan untuk pertemuan besok. Jadi yang pertama, Bapak Ibu, kami berharap bisa menyiapkan dokumen kebijakan peraturan ya, terkhusus pengelolaan sampah yang sudah dimiliki di tiap kabupaten atau kota masing-masing. Nah, kebijakan yang ada akan dibahas pada sesi diskusi di sesi 6, sesi diskusi pagi. Ya, Bapak Ibu, itu PR untuk hari ini. Jadi silakan siapkan dokumen kebijakan yang sudah ada. Kalau misalnya belum ada, bagaimana nanti bisa dikasih catatan kalau memang belum ada dokumen kebijakannya. Kurang lebih seperti itu. Sebelum kita tutup, mari kita foto bersama. Silakan Bapak Ibu buka kamera. Roy, maybe you can. Oh, Roy udah hilang. Kita oke. Ya, kita foto bersama. So we take a picture. Untuk tim teknis dipersilahkan.
Kau kan kayak monyet kan adanya.
Jangan kamu ngomong.
apakah sudah siap tim teknis?
Unmute ini. Sorry ke unmute. Oke, 1, 2, 3. Tahan sebentar. Lanjut slide kedua. 1, 2, 3. Oke, lanjut sebentar. Lanjut untuk slide yang ketiga. 1, 2, 3. Oke, terima kasih.
Oke,
Terima
terima
kasih
kasih
semuanya Bapak Ibu.
Sampai jumpa
Mr.
besok.
Froy. Sampai jumpa
Thank you,
besok.
Froy. Thank you
Selamat
semuanya.
istirahat. Jaga
Makasih semuanya.
kesehatan.
Ingat dokumen kebijakannya ya, Bapak Ibu, kita diskusikan besok pagi. Oke, siap. Sampai jumpa. Terima kasih banyak.
Nah, ini kok error gitu. Oh, seakan nih, Rek. Mbak Hani, Rek. Kasihan dia Mbak Hani, teler.
Mbak Hani, kamu kemana lagi, Mbak?
Ayo. Gak turun-turun.